Welcome back to Wiseman Company, fellas. Ben here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Shadow Systems MR920. But before we dive into this and my many concerns, I got a couple questions for you guys. And I'd really like you to answer your honest answer down below. First question, is the Glock design itself, killing itself? Is it eating itself? We saw this with the Colt 1911 back in the day. The design for the time was so good and so standardized that other companies, once the patents expired, started making 1911s. So my question to you guys is the Glock design its own Glock killer? We see a lot of the clones out there, and are they as good? Are they competing with real Glocks? And what does that mean for the company Glock as it is right now? Is it dying? Is it progressing? You let me know down in the comments. I know that's a lot, but just pick or choose one or two of those and let me know what you think. So this is the Shadow Systems MR920. This is a really dumb designation. I didn't think anyone could do dumber Glock designations than Glock, but here we are. MR920, for whatever that stands for. This handgun checks a lot of the boxes for an updated Glock as far as aesthetics and features. Again, this, just by looking at it and checking it out on paper, this does a lot of things right. When I originally picked one up before shooting it, I posted this online to get your guys' feedback. Hey, what do you guys think of the Shadow Systems series of handguns? And all the comments were pretty negative. I mean, I had never posted a gun with and received that kind of negativity with prior experiences from you guys. Like, I was very surprised, again, because this has a lot of desirable features, checks a lot of boxes, and I hadn't heard much about these or ever shot one, messed with one. I actually don't even see them in classes too often. But when I posted asking you guys, there was a lot of negative feedback and experiences with the Shadow Systems line of handguns. So that really got me thinking, and I'll get into my personal experience with it, but let's cover the specs first, those features that we like or want in a handgun, and then we'll go into my experience. So they have a bunch of different handguns or models. The MR920 is a Glock 19 size handgun. I did put a compensator on, but we'll get to that in a second. The components themselves are a combination of Gen 3 and Gen 4 components. So take that for what you want. You got to be really careful when you're shopping for accessories for these handguns to make sure you're getting the right generation, because they're not compatible across the board. So this is, to my knowledge, it's a mixture of Gen 3 and Gen 4 parts. Don't know why they did that, but that seems to be the case. Okay, let's start at the top. Optics cut. That should be a given for any new handgun coming out on the market. People are going to run optics. There are a variety of optics out there, so your optics cut has to be suitable for a variety of different optics. I have an RMR on here. This is an old RMR. It's still going strong. The optics cut on this slide is good. It fits in there nicely. They come with little spacers and screws, so you can adapt the cut to whatever optic you want. So good job on the optics cut. Nothing unusual there. Again, this type of feature should be a layup for manufacturers. Sights. So it comes with sights. You're going to have a blacked out rear and a kind of fiber optic tritium front. This is kind of annoying if you're shooting under nods, because that tritium up front makes kind of a glow and you can see it through the window. It almost makes you look like there's two dots, but there's not. There's just your RMR dot and then like some sort of weird glow from the tritium up front. You're not really seeing the tritium dot. You're just kind of catching the light from it through the window. Super annoying, but that was only because I was running under nods. If you were just going to run iron sights, which I don't know why you would, but if you were just going to run iron sights, the front sight would be very, very helpful. Tritium, high vis, everybody wants that when they're running iron sights. The slide, lot of texture on here. So we got some cuts up front, we got some scalping so you can do your press checks, you can get a good grip on the slide, a little bit of material taken out on the sides here, which is a nice touch, and some more serrations in the back. Again, checking all those boxes for an up-to-date 2025 handgun, you're going to want some texture on the slide, maybe lighten it up a little bit if you think that's necessary. The main thing for me is that I can get a good purchase on the slide, get some grip on it. The barrel it came with was a spiral-fluted barrel, high quality, no accuracy issues, fit and finish was fine. I swapped it out for this Roscoe barrel so I could put the compensator on here. I just had a Roscoe barrel on hand, and it'll work for generation 1 through 5, so I popped that in there, and I added the compensator after the fact. And we'll touch more on this later, but this gun was just so snappy. It's a Glock 19 size handgun, and it was incredibly snappy. You know, I shoot almost exclusively Glocks, run a lot of different Glock 19s over all generations, and this is by far a handgun that has the most felt recoil. It was almost like shooting a subcompact handgun. It was really, really strange, and the only thing I can contribute that to is because this handgun is so light. It was 2 to 3 ounces lighter than my other Glock 19, which has already a lot of material taken out of it. So this is a really lightweight handgun. Not always the best. It's nice and comfortable for carrying it around in your belt line, but shooting it, I let a bunch of other guys shoot it too, you could really feel the recoil. So I added the comp, helped a little bit. We'll get into that in a second, but added the comp onto that threaded Roscoe barrel. Moving down below to the frame. Frame texture is decent. It's not bad, pretty good. I did add some more in here with a wood burning tool. Just added some more texture for grip. Again, because it was so snappy, I just wanted to get a better purchase on the handgun. The frame feels really good in the hands. It's comfortable. Comes with interchangeable backstraps. I kept the same one on here that it shipped with, which is like the medium. Decent job with the frame. Slide stop is going to be non-ambidextrous, so it's just on that left side. Rail up front for your lights, lasers, etc. Nothing really to talk about the frame. It's the right shape. They got some good cutouts. Wish the texture was a little bit more aggressive, but that's really just a personal thing. As we move lower on the frame, you're going to come to the mag well. This is a nice touch. It is a polymer mag well. Makes reloads really nice and easy, but also allows you to really get a good grip on the handgun. Kind of smushes your hand into this space right here, which is nice. Obviously, the main function of a mag well is reloads, but kind of a side benefit is that good grip on here. Mag release, non-ambidextrous, nice and big on the left side of the handgun for you right-handed shooters. Trigger. Everyone's going to ask about the trigger. Trigger is better than a Gen 3 stock trigger. That's not saying a lot, though. I think any flat face trigger like you see here is going to be better than a curved trigger. So I like the flat face trigger. It's a little bit lighter, a little bit crisper. It's still not better than a Gen 5 performance trigger in my experience, but it is a step up from the Gen 3s and Gen 4 stock triggers. It's going to ship with Magpul magazines, but those are pretty worthless, so I just chucked those to the side, and I ran factory Glock mags in this gun. No issues. Lockup was good. They've dropped free. Sometimes the slide wouldn't lock to the rear, but I'm pretty sure that's because those magazines I was using were just flat, worn out, and they weren't locking the slide to the rear. But everything fed as it should. All the Glock factory mags worked as advertised. Okay, let's get into my experience with the MR920. I really thought this was going to be a great gun. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the video and throughout the video, it checks all the boxes. It looks good. It's got the features you want for an updated handgun right out of the box. But it just did weird stuff. And by weird stuff, I mean like if I tipped it like this and just ran the slide to the rear, it would hang up. It would lock to the rear with no magazine in it or without pushing up the slide stop. And it still hangs up a little bit. It never caused a malfunction, but it would just lock back, and then after I would pound it forward, it would go forward, and it doesn't do it as much anymore. Not something that gives you a warm and fuzzy inside when you're talking about a gun you might want to carry or shoot in a competition or something like that. That was just like a weird little quirk that shouldn't happen. A couple other weird things happened. Trigger wouldn't reset at least 2 or 3 times, and I can't figure out why. It never did it again. and I have probably, you know, 800 rounds to 1,000 rounds through this thing, and it never did it again. But it did do it. And I know they advertise a break-in period, but I was well beyond the 200 round break-in period. So not sure what's going on there. Just didn't give me a lot of confidence. The biggest issue in my experience with this handgun was back to the snappiness of it, the felt recoil. I added weight to this thing by adding the compensator and the X300, and just the compensator in its very own nature being compensating. It still was very, very snappy. It was basically on par with a stock Glock. For some of you, that won't matter. You think, Ben, it's 9mm, just grip it and rip it. Yeah, I hear you, and I did do that. But for the price you're paying for something like this, you're going to pay around $1,000, I think, for the MR920. You know, you want something with some real performance, some real horsepower in it, and this thing was kind of annoying to shoot. Again, I let other guys shoot it just to make sure it wasn't me, and the felt recoil was stout. And I can only contribute that to it just being really lightweight. It was very, very light before I added the X300 and compensator. It was 2 to 3 ounces lighter than my normal Glock 19 that has a ton of weight taken out of it. By adding the comp and the X300, I think I added 6 ounces over a stock Glock 19, and still pretty darn snappy. Feels comfortable to carry, really nice and light, but the felt recoil was just, it just shouldn't be like that. And that's unfortunate, again, because it looks good, it checks a lot of boxes, no reliability issues. Like, I never had a malfunction, other than what I talked about, you know, pointing it down, locking the slide to the rear, or the trigger not resetting those 3 times. Nothing beyond that, nothing. And with a gun that's advertised that to have a break-in period, I kind of expected some of that stuff. The problem was I couldn't really diagnose it, why this was going on. Just doesn't give you confidence, right? So MR920, in my experience, I'm gonna have to pass on it. I would just get a normal Glock or a Ruger RXM. Those are great. I think the Ruger RXM is the clone to beat right now, honestly, and that would not have been on my bingo card for 2025. I'm going to keep shooting this as much as I can or want to, but I really don't want to. It's unfortunate. Ben Stager, he did a review on one of these. He shoots a lot of Glocks. He shoots a lot of everything. Great shooter, phenomenal shooter. And he kind of had the same feedback that I did, that I'm giving you. And, you know, it's more of a confidence thing. You just don't want to trust it because it acts weird and you don't have the same type of, you know, felt performance you would out of a pretty much like a normal Glock. You know, I was thinking about even adding a tungsten guide rod to this, but it's like, okay, I'm going to add another $100 to this gun to try to get it on par with some of my other Glocks that I have. It just seems like I'm tossing money down the drain with this gun. Again, I'm gonna keep trying to shoot it. Maybe it'll like smooth out and feel really good, or something will happen. I don't know. In conclusion, I am rooting for companies like Shadow Systems to make successful Glock clones. I really am. I want Glock to be overtaken. Glock has never been a company for the American people. You know, they seem like they don't like us at all. They love Leo contracts, military contracts. They definitely don't really care about the Second Amendment, but what we are to them is just a cash cow. We are their largest market. Civilians are their largest market, and, you know, they tolerate us for the most part. So to see other companies taking their design, being more pro 2A, giving the features we want, listening to feedback we give them, that's what I want to see. So I'm not being a stickler here. I'm rooting for companies like this. I just can't recommend it in good conscience at this point. Maybe I just got a lemon. I don't know. Little side note. There's one component that people cannot copy with Glock. They have tried to reproduce it. They've tried to make it as reliable and as cheap. There's one component that other manufacturers can't seem to clone of Glock products, and that is the magazine. And hopefully someone does it. I know Metgar released metal Glock magazines, but I'm not hearing good reports about those. Magpul mags, ETS mags, the factory Glock mags still reign supreme. 30 bucks a mag typically, MSRP I think, but they are worth it. They will last forever. They are plentiful. They are everywhere. I'd like to see someone come out with a really good, counterpart to the Glock magazine. All right, guys, let me know down in the comments to answer those questions I asked at the beginning about, is Glock killing itself? Is the actual design eating its own? What are your experiences with shadow systems? If you want to support us, go to wisemancompany.com. That's the best way to support us. We have a ton of great gear over there. We have fast shipping, it's high quality, and that supports us directly. We don't get money from companies to make these videos. This is a labor of love, and we are supported directly through our viewership, and we appreciate that support. My name's Ben. We'll see you on the next video.